Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
And here we go. We are live. Ashton Forbes here with you guys. Thanks for being here on my live stream. We are going to be talking about some pretty fun stuff here tonight. Thank you very much, everyone who's in the live stream, everybody who jumped in early on. I appreciate you guys for getting on early. I don't like to do really long waits, so hopefully you didn't have to wait very long. I'm going to read off a few of the people here that jumped in early. Dalton, thanks for jumping on. Hayes, you guys were here early. Kathy D, nice to see you guys that in here. Lang Gigi, thank you very much, man. Appreciate you. I'll get your name right one of these times. Ray Clay, Schizo Enemy, #1, UFO Nut. Good to see you guys. William Frickle, good to see you. Peter Smith, nice to have you here. Cat Cans, always good to see you. Dorian, good to see you as well, sir. Hey, this side up, good to see you. Nikki, glad you made it. Salty Decimator, yes. Blue, 1 in the chat. Thank you. John Doe, nice to see you here as well. Hello, Amethyst. Alex, good to see you. Ocean Eyes, there you are. Nice to see you, Ocean Eyes. Try making more for dummies. John Mack, nice to see you. Amethyst with the alien sign. Investigate Earth podcast. Good to see you guys. Hope everything's going well. It's orb time for sure. Blockchain is here for the alien. Hope you guys like my thumbnail. I think I said hi to Aaron, but if not, hi, Aaron. How's it going? DJ Zero Action, LFG. Salty Decimator, nice to see you. Drew Foster, nice to see you as well. Justin Channels, awesome. Appreciate it. Yeah, smash that like. Banner, good to see you. Appreciate you, man. Quizzicoatl, nice to see you. Zachary, Buddy James, nice to see you. Oh yeah, we are going. Okay, and I'm gonna stop. Everybody else, thank you guys very much for being in here. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody who jumped on early to say hello. Okay, guys, so let's shoot the breeze for a couple minutes here. To share the link on X, I believe you can just retweet or something my live stream that should have popped up. Alternatively, you can go over to YouTube and you can watch us on YouTube as well. I did upgrade the package today because popular demand. Everybody wanted to see me in 1080p. So I did upgrade. It's really expensive on StreamYard, but that's fine. I definitely make enough money from the social media stuff to be able to afford whatever $40 a month it is. So thank you guys. Hey, up from Hotlanta. Nice to see you there. Hello from the shower. Yeah, Nikki. Wow. Oh, Pepper Zolgan. Shout out for the Nordics. Shout out to the Nordics over here. DEI training for all of you guys. The Great Mantid Wars, guys. The Nordics won the Great Mantid Wars. Okay. So I hope you guys liked the thumbnail. If you didn't see the thumbnail, there's a little bit of a hint in the thumbnail for today. Today we are going to talk a little bit about aliens. Ooh, not too much, but there's been stuff that's been popping up regarding the alien stuff, and we're going to address some of the claims that are out there and the history of what's been going on with regards to this. So if you didn't see my thumbnail, here it is. Look at that. There you go. There's the thumbnail. It's one of my better thumbnails. So this is a government agent strangling a blue alien holding a gun to him. And if you're not sure why that's a relevant picture, then you probably haven't been watching enough or paying too much attention to UFO Twitter drama. So over the last, really, I guess, day or so, a whistleblower has supposedly come out. And there was a big space with like 1,000 people in it the other night. There's been posts all over UFO Twitter about it. And supposedly this whistleblower, I joined the space for a little bit, and there were some red flags going up right away for me. So I will make a statement about the whistleblower situation and that. First thing I want to do is do a quick rundown of some of the posts on Twitter that have been getting some attention and some of the content I put in as we have people trickling in. And then I'll get to that stuff. It's mostly going to be a discussion stream tonight. And I don't think it'll go too long, but I always say that, so we never really know. So let me go ahead and get this set up. Okay. Share this. And appreciate everyone who is here. We've had a big following recently on live stream, and especially on Twitter. Supposedly, Twitter is going to increase the live stream revenue payouts as well, which is pretty exciting for people who are content creators, which I guess I consider myself a content creator. I've been putting a lot of work into posts on social media in terms of high technology. So if you've been looking, especially through my post today, and if you were to retweet this, people will see it there. Thank you very much for retweeting it. All 14 people have already retweeted it. It's only been 10 minutes. So I want to address, let's see, where do we start with here? Let's start with, there's some pretty amazing science stuff that's out there, guys. If you've been watching me post about free energy. We did a big stream on it. You can check it out on YouTube. You can check it out on Twitter and X as well. Should be a replay of it. And we are going to be talking a lot more about free energy and cold fusion. In fact, later today, I'm going to give you guys some definitions so that we can clear everything up so there's not any misinterpretations. So I have and will continue to post a lot of cool stuff and updates regarding that, as well as stuff like superconductivity, which is a prerequisite, I believe, to achieve cold fusion. So check those videos and that content out. Now, as well, I did a post about the barnacle analysis here. And let's go ahead and go through that real quick while people are trickling in. So if you are interested in the MH370 stuff, I'm going to start with that here tonight. There's only a couple posts about it. I'm just going to read off the barnacle analysis post. A lot of people, one of the number one questions people ask me is, what about the debris? Some debris washed up. Doesn't that prove that the plane crashed? Actually, the opposite. The amount of debris that washed ashore is tiny. This is how much debris washed ashore. Look at this. 3 pieces are confirmed. Tiny pieces. This is less than 1% of the plane. This piece is misleading. This is an interior panel, is not the whole big engine. They didn't find something this big. So when you look at these tiny, even if you take the highly likely pieces and realize that this is not a giant piece like it claims to be here, you realize they found basically nothing. Basically nothing. Certainly not enough to prove that a plane crashed. Do I think this technology will be made available to normal people someday? Yeah, that's the point here. There's only one adult American passenger on board the plane, for the people who are curious, and that was Philip Wood. His girlfriend was all over CNN and major news stations saying that they didn't believe the official story. This is the irony where people say that, like, I'm hurting the families. Well, if you were to listen and talk to the families, you'd realize they know there was a cover-up. I don't think they're ready to hear that their plane was teleported by some orbs, but They'll come to terms with it in time, just like everybody else. Okay. So, that's a good point. Is something else I do want to go over. And at the end, we will look at one of the videos that I thought there was some new. Actually, we'll do that right after the barnacle analysis. Okay. So most people are aware of the few pieces of debris claimed to be from MH370 that were found, that washed up in Africa and found by civilians. So it was not found by the official search. Just people don't seem to understand that. The official search found literally nothing. What people don't realize is the massive inconsistency between the debris and the supposed crash site in the South Indian Ocean, which is indicated by the Inmarsat satellite pings. That's the only reason why we think the plane went in the South Indian Ocean. NC Boy in the replies here brought up a really good comment, which is that there were 2 phone calls to the plane. One right at 1839 UTC, within minutes of when we think the plane disappears in the videos. And then the other one is at like 2313, like 6 hours later. But there's nothing on the time where this plane was supposedly flying through the South Indian Ocean. Why didn't they call more? They called twice? You got a plane flying rogue and you just call it twice? Pretty unusual. Much of the debris, including the Rolls-Royce engine cowling, which is picture number 1 here. This is the Rolls-Royce engine cowling. This is literally a piece of the engine. If you guys were watching the news last week, you would see that a piece of engine cowling from a Southwest plane ripped off during takeoff. Same deal. That's what this is here. This would not have been able to drift thousands of miles to South Africa, where that piece was found in the time allotted. Not in 16 months. Probably couldn't even make it there in years. I mean, you look at this. This thing is not like it's going to drift. It's just going to like sit on the water, floating. It's not going to be like drifting like 10 miles per day or whatever is required, over 10 miles a day. So it's actually impossible. The experts out there have no explanation for this whatsoever. They just don't talk about it. Because the thing about phony experts that are out there is that they cherry pick the data that they use to build their story. The thing about MH370X, which is so compelling, is that we didn't cherry pick any information. We took all the evidence back in, all of it. The only thing that we had to dismiss was the satellite pings after 1840 UTC. That's it. And as you're going to see from the rest of this debris post, there is some serious doubts as to whether or not this plane ended up in the South Indian Ocean. And if that plane didn't end up in the South Indian Ocean, what's up with the pings? Are the pings wrong? Are they fabricated? I'll leave it to you to determine that. So, not one piece of debris washed up in Australia. Not one. 0 washed up in Australia. And I apologize for some of the spelling mistakes here. I didn't really do a good job editing this, it looks like. 2 additional problems have arisen. The largest barnacles found on the flaperon suggest it could have only been floating for 4 months, compared to the 16 months when it was found since the plane had disappeared. Well, wow. That's important because there's no way the debris could have drifted all the way to Reunion Island from the supposed crash site in the South Indian Ocean in just 4 months. 2,000 miles in 120 days? It's like 15 miles per day. How fast was this debris drifting? Literally impossible. Does anyone address this? Nope. They just completely gloss it over. You'll hear Larry Vance on the what's it called? Reality Check podcast with Ross Coulthart. Ross Coulthart reaches out to Larry Vance, a guy where if you watch it, he looks like a flustered, angry Redditor. Just literally adamantly saying he knows what happened to the plane, has no evidence whatsoever, but claims he knows exactly what happened because he looked at the flaperon and he was able to divine exactly what happened to the plane. Says it multiple times. Gets asked about the fire scenario, completely dodges the question. Won't even address it. And then they have Florence Tachangi, which admittedly Florence Tachangi is at least a smart woman. She knows to ask the very first question, where's the debris field? But I don't think she's ready to accept the idea of us being able to warp an aircraft, which that's fine. That's fine. I have faith that these people will come around. But Ross Coulthart doesn't reach out to me. A guy who I would say I'm probably in the top 3 or 5 most knowledgeable people about MH370 in the entire world. which is fine. And why does he want to talk to me? Because the more people that talk to me, the more the evidence gets out to the world. And you may say, yes, a lot of people are going to think that you're crazy, whatever. But a lot of people will wake up and realize, yeah, you're asking some pretty basic questions that doesn't take any PhDs to figure out. Debris can't just go thousands of miles in a few months. Doesn't work that way. Debris, when a plane crashes in Australia, doesn't show up in South Africa. Should show up in Australia. You know, people, again, the thing about MH370 that's so compelling is people just have to use basic critical thinking. It doesn't require any advanced degrees, just basic critical thinking in order to figure out what happened to this plane. You need to just stop believing whatever you hear on TV. You need to stop believing what people who call themselves experts who are just phonies say. And you need to just use your own mind and ask basic questions. And you'll realize there's no chance this plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean. So then the other problem was that when the French researchers tested the flaperon in a tank, so they got this. So what happened here, just to give you guys a little more context, is these experts went to try to say, okay, well, let's figure out if the debris would have washed up in Reunion Island. So they throw some boards into the water. And they find out right away there's no chance it's going to end up in the Reunion Island. I think they claimed it was going to end up in the Middle East or something like that. So did they mention that? Did they bring that up? Nope. They cover that up and they say, okay, let's do another one. So they get the Americans to give them a replica flaperon. They throw this replica flaperon in the water and then they quickly go, yep, this will confirm that it will get to Reunion Island. Okay. Well, there's a problem, is that when they throw the flaperon in the water, the edge sticks out. The problem with that is when they looked at the barnacles, there are barnacles on the edge that would have been sticking out. There's actually barnacles on both edges, indicating that this thing was submerged. So how exactly could, and the thing that's important about this is that they needed it to be sticking out of the water because the most of the drift doesn't come from the ocean currents. It comes from the wind blowing on the piece that's up here. So this would actually been nice for the wind theory that it's going to somehow float to the Reunion Island. But it's contraindicated by the barnacle growth on the flaperon itself. If the thing was sticking out of the water like that, there wouldn't be any barnacles in the part that's sticking out of the water. So the debris actually, counter to what a lot of people think out there, the debris actually contraindicates the crash scenario. At the minimum, it contraindicates a crash scenario in the South Indian Ocean. In fact, I would argue the debris rules out a crash in the South Indian Ocean. Now, you can find some drift model analysis, scientific papers that are out there. Unfortunately, all of those papers are confirmation bias. Models are actually not science either. Science is literally the study of observable reality. Coming up with a model as confirmation bias to convince yourself that you're right is pretty much kind of the exact opposite of science for the most part. And anyone who's lived through COVID should know that, because we had, if you don't believe me, go look at the IMHE model in terms of what it said would happen to hospital beds, the number of people that would die and all this stuff. They were off by a magnitude of 10, a magnitude of 10. And this is the kind of same stuff that happens when anyone does models anywhere, is that models should really never be looked at no matter what. If you want to have just basic rough guesses, and to really drive the point home, debris drift analysis has literally never been used to find any aircraft ever in the water or any crash, as far as I know. In fact, when they tried to use debris drift analysis for Air France 447 that was out there, it actually delayed the search by months because it was inaccurate. And this is, again, just goes to prove to you that debris drift analysis cannot be used to find planes and to reverse engineer locations of planes. There's too much stuff going on with the currents, and the wind doesn't consistently blow in one direction. So this is pretty damning. Now, once again, we never found anything in the South Indian Ocean, despite the most expensive and extensive search in human history. The debris in Africa contraindicates that crash site. And if that is wrong, that means the Inmarsat pings must be fabricated or incorrectly interpreted. That's the logical conclusion that one must make. The Inmarsat pings after 1840 UTC are the only significant evidence that the MH370X investigation has had to discount. The real story of MH370 is that of a fire emergency event and undisclosed advanced technology being used on the plane, which if you guys have been following me for this long period of time, you would already know that. If you are new to the investigation, check out my post from the last few days, watch the Redacted podcast. You'll come to the same conclusion. Now, let's look at the follow-up post that I made. So I decided to make a follow-up post. And I don't really like how I was looking in this. This was from months and months and months ago. Obviously, my hair is not the same length in this picture, in this video. But the key part is this part up here at the top. And let's go ahead, and I am going to play. I'm going to play that for you guys so you can watch it, though. Because I want people who haven't been paying attention, not part of the case. I'm going to listen. This is called the Flight Path Explainer. It's actually still very relevant because this is what really happened in the plane. And this is supported by more evidence than any other story to date. We don't have to discount witnesses. We don't have to pretend like witnesses were lying. We actually just look at all the evidence that's out there. Hello, everybody. This is Ashton Forbes, here to bring you the MH370X Flight Path Explainer. The plane takes off at 1642 UTC from Kuala Lumpur, headed to Beijing. At 1719 UTC, the pilot says, "Good night, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Around 1721 UTC, a lithium-ion battery fire explosion occurs and is seen by Mike McKay on an oil rig 300 miles away. He sees fire for 5 to 10 seconds. 9 witnesses along the coast hear loud noises at the same time. The plane goes dark. In the case of a fire, the first response is to pull the main buses and restore the circuits one by one until you have isolated the bad one. If they pulled the buses, the plane would go silent. The plane heads towards Penang, Langkawi International Airport. The pilot knew the train was friendlier towards Langkawi, which was also closer than Kuala Lumpur. At 1730 UTC, there's a communication with another pilot who hears the voice of one of the pilots of MH370. At the same time, 8 fishermen on a boat 10 miles off the coast see the plane flying unusually low, consistent with a depressurization emergency event attempting to provide oxygen for the passengers. The Malaysian Minister of Defense claims the plane was not identified, but admits they knew it was a non-hostile civilian airliner. The plane flies over Langkawi at 1752 UTC when the co-pilot's cell phone pings a cell tower. The plane doesn't land either due to the fire or because they have communicated a rendezvous point. The plane continues to the Nicobar Islands until around 1840 UTC when a witness, Kate T, sees a glowing orange plane with dark smoke coming out of it. This is consistent with the crew battling the lithium battery fire with halon fire suppression devices, releasing bromine, a halogen gas. Soon after, the videos begin. They show smoke coming out of the back of the plane consistent with the fire. The plane is descending in the videos consistent with an intercepted, Chinese-only reported communication that claims the plane was attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. The plane's altitude is low in the videos, as proven by the cumulus clouds that only form between 1,000 and 5,000 feet, also consistent with the witness's sighting. And then I let the videos play out here. And let's go back to that. Okay. And yes, so whoops, funny how Dickie Greg. We should set him up with Tiffany Gomez of that MFR is not real. Guys, she posted a picture in a bikini on Twitter. I generally don't get into whatever stuff like that, but wow. Guys, I might change my mind and say that the reptilians are my favorite. If that's something that she needs me to say, guys, I might have to go away from Team Mantids and go to Team Reptilians. But it would be funny, because like I don't know. I do actually. If anyone knows a side story, real quick, about what her story is and what she saw or whatever, please let me know. I've never heard the follow up on that. This was the post I was trying to click on right there, which was funny how Dick Gregory was way ahead of everyone. He was very ahead of everybody. However, the claim, and this is for everybody out there who's watching, the claim that there was 4 out of 5 people in the patent holders, that's not true. That claim with the Rothschilds and the 4 out of 5 patent holders is not true. It is true that the Carlyle Group is part owners of Freescale Semiconductors. That part is true. But the 4 other people that were supposedly on the plane were not even on the plane. We checked. We checked, we double checked, we triple checked. They weren't on the plane at all. Now, the reason why I find that conspiracy theory interesting is because the 20 Freescale semiconductor scientists are without a doubt the motive for disappearing this plane. Like, there's no question. I did another piece on espionage, which let's go take a look at that here as well, just yesterday. And then we'll look at the last one. Oh, actually, let's finish this one up first. Okay, sorry, I didn't even read this. Okay, so the United States helped come up with a cover story that would send people on a wild goose chase searching for MH370 in the South Indian Ocean. This narrative was first floated March 13th or 14th. I find it kind of depends on the news article you find. But this is, so 5 days, 6 days after the plane goes missing. So plane goes missing March 8th. 4 or 5 days after, now all of a sudden, unnamed U.S. sources are saying that they are going to move the search to the South Indian Ocean. If you were alive back then and you were an adult back then, this was the weirdest thing ever. They were searching in the South China Sea. Then they're like, nope, just kidding. We tracked it on radar going to the Andaman Sea. And you're like, well, why didn't you say that days ago? And then they're like, okay, and now U.S. sources. And it's like, why are U.S. sources the ones telling us where they think the plane went? And in everybody's minds, they're going, oh, well, they must have seen the plane and they're secretly giving information to Malaysia about where they saw the plane go. But if that was the case, we would have pinpointed the exact location of the plane. Instead, they're like, no, we've got these satellite pings. And they don't release the satellite pings until May 28th, which is like 10 weeks later. Pretty weird. Why was the United States dictating the search area? I went through, you guys can go through, if you do Google search, change your date ranges to just the few days around these dates right here, plus or minus a couple dates, you will find these articles that I pulled these quotes from. The analysis conducted by United States and Malaysian government may have narrowed down the search area for the jetliner that vanished en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, leaving little trace of where it went or why. So we know that's a lie. Why was the United States, why was the White House contacting Malaysia every day? The White House. Does that seem normal to you? Was the White House contacting the Kremlin when we had to get Brittany Griner out of prison? No. It was the State Department. For some reason the White House was contacting Malaysia because they were developing a cover story. That's the reason why we were searching in the wrong location. They had to avoid the fact that they knew exactly where this plane really disappeared. They didn't want anybody to accidentally find like a piece of evidence that would have proven that the plane got warped out of the Nicobar Islands. So they had to have people not paying attention to that until they came up with some story they could invent that would distract people. And what kind of story do you come up with? You send them to the middle of the ocean. And then you tell everybody, yeah, we just didn't see it and we're never going to find anything. Sorry, too bad. The United States government actually stopped searching within 1 month. 1 month, the United States government stopped helping with the search. And then Obama visits Malaysia in April. First time a president has visited Malaysia in 50 years. Guys, I'm trying not to be a conspiracy theorist here, but everything just adds up towards them being the ones. This is the United States are the ones who did this. We're the ones implicated. We're the ones filming it. We're the ones developing the cover story. This is Jay Carney, White House spokesman. You guys can, if you remember from back then, he was a White House spokesman for Obama. It is my understanding that based on some new information that's not necessarily conclusive, but new information, an additional search area may be opened in the Indian Ocean. White House spokesman Jay Carney said yesterday without disclosing the nature of the information. They couldn't bring up what the information was because they had to make sure that they had fabricated the satellite pings beforehand. They developed a story, and then they came up with this idea of, oh, well, we'll just claim it was some satellite pings that prove it. We'll release 10 rows of Excel data to experts, and then those experts will independently figure out that, yes, this proves the plane went into the South Indian Ocean, despite doing the most expensive search in history and not finding one piece of the plane, not finding any black boxes, despite the fact that supposedly these satellite pings should pinpoint the location in the South Indian Ocean. Again, guys, we just have to use critical thinking. Either the satellite pings are correct and we should have found the plane. We should have found a giant debris field. We should have found the debris field underwater. We should have found it above water. Everything was floating. We searched everywhere. Or that's wrong. And if that's wrong, it means those satellite pings were fabricated. The experts that came up with the novel analysis for determining how it proves where they went are sure they did the math right. So if they did the math right, it means the satellite pings, the data is wrong. One way or another, I don't care who is wrong. I just know it's bullshit because I can use basic logic and critical thinking. It's also no coincidence that Boeing and Rolls-Royce didn't publicly comment or release the engine data. The excuse that they gave was that Malaysia didn't pay for the service. Does that mean the data was shut off? I would almost guarantee that Rolls-Royce was still getting the engine data. And Rolls-Royce's engine data would have proved the conspiracy. It would have proved that all of a sudden the plane was over here and then the plane was over here. It would have proved it. Rolls-Royce and Boeing are, either U.S. or U.K. government contractors. They were easily able to be forced to lie under national defense and national security. They are implicated in the cover-up. United States is, so is Boeing, so is Rolls-Royce. United States sent the world to a remote part of the ocean because it would give plausible deniability on why we would never find anything even 10 years later. That's the answer. Why send them to a random spot in the South Indian Ocean? You look at the flight path and it's like, okay, look at this flight path here. This is like a normal flight path. They go to Penang. This is an emergency event. Now they're going over here because they're most likely trying to rendezvous with the Cope Tiger and Cobra Gold exercises. My guess is they had communication with the United States military. United States military says, come over here. Come over here. Well, this is where we'll let you land in the ocean here and we'll pick you guys out of the water. And then they get there and they get warped away by some orbs. That's my personal pet theory, but of course we can't know for sure because we don't have communications that are publicly available from inside the cockpit. It could also have been remote controlled over here using the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. Guys, if they can teleport a plane, they can definitely remote control a plane. Now, this is why you hear this bullshit narrative from so many NPC sheeple people that go, the ocean's really big. And anytime somebody says that, you say, okay, point on the map where the plane ended up. Because we search everywhere, and either those satellite pings are right or wrong. They have the plane running out of fuel. That's what the narrative has, it running out of fuel, meaning it can't go anymore. There's one expert that claims, oh, it's off by 20 miles. That makes no sense because when you're flying around in a plane, searching in the ocean for debris, what have you, you can see for tens of miles, if not hundreds of miles. So it's not like they were flying around and they just, oh, you just missed it. It was 10 miles away from where you were looking. That's not how it works when you're flying around looking for debris. They would have gotten away with it too if it were not for two perfectly in sync military videos leaked to the public. These videos are real. They tell the true story of what happened to the plane. They tell about the cover-up that happened. In my opinion, it is undeniable that that's what happened. And then people say, okay, and let me just address this claim here as well. And I'm going to talk about this after I finish the recap. No, I am not saying aliens took the plane. No. Once again, no, I am not saying aliens took the plane. I'm not even convinced there are aliens on this planet. So, no, I don't think so. I do not think aliens took the plane. If you want to think aliens took the plane, that's totally fine. But I do not want people misrepresenting my opinion of it. Because here's the thing, and this is the reason why. So, why did aliens not take this plane? Why is it not aliens in the MH370 videos? The actual, in addition to the fact that the orbs show up after we're already filming the plane, which would indicate there's already an operation of some type, this already means that either we caught aliens zapping MH370, we got the 1 in a million, just happened to be filming, just happened to be filming when the orbs came in and the aliens zapped the plane, or we were planning this the whole time. So that's probably the strongest evidence. Now, the death blow to the alien narrative is this. The reason why a lot of people believe it's aliens is because they believe what we're seeing in the MH370 videos is impossible. That's the reason. So this is what I've concluded from, not necessarily arguing, but there were a lot of people who were on my side. They wanted to convince me it had to be aliens. And their argument was, well, it's not something we can understand, therefore it must be aliens, which is actually a pretty bad argument. Let me switch over my screen share here. I want to pull this up while I'm talking about it. Okay. So a lot of people just think, well, it's not something that we have, so therefore it must be aliens. But they don't think, well, what does the military have when we look at this video here? And we look at this video right away, we can tell we're not looking at UFOs. We're not looking at flying saucers here. We're not looking with there's a craft that has somebody inside of it. We're looking at a ball of energy, an energy field around an object that is only at most 20 or 30 feet in diameter. And that is not big enough to be having little people inside. Plus, the movements of these orbs, look at the movements of these orbs. That is being remote controlled by a computer program. That is not somebody flying around with that level of precision. Not an alien or a human. But here's the kicker. We figured out how the technology works. So this is the main reason why this is not aliens that we're looking at here. We figured out how the technology works. If I was unable to figure out how the technology worked, if it was actually something that was impossible to understand, then I would say it must be aliens. If it was so far that we would not be able to understand it. But it turns out it's macroscopic phase conjugation. This is a scientific term. It uses mixed wave interferometry. The only thing that you need to understand to even begin to realize this is possible is that we can produce gravitational waves. And we know that's possible because LIGO has measured gravitational waves. So we know they're real. So this is the reason why it's the death blow to the this is aliens hypothesis, is that we figured it out. We actually figured out scientifically what we're looking at in these videos, which means that it's not unknowable. It's not some impossible technology that we can't figure out. It's a technology that has been figured out potentially for decades, not just 10 years ago when this happened, but Thomas Bearden was talking about scalar physics and the idea of a cold explosion, which is literally what we're seeing here. This is a cold explosion in this video. The cold black event here is cold. That right there, it's a cold explosion. Thomas Bearden was talking about this in 1985. Now, that's why this isn't aliens, but that doesn't mean that it's not reverse engineered technology. It absolutely could still be reverse engineered technology. I can't rule that out. In fact, that's my number one hypothesis, is I don't think we magically figured this out. However, it is possible. It is possible that we figured this out on our own. This goes all the way back. I've dug through the history of the suppression of this science, watched a lot of documentaries and more links than you guys can imagine at this point. I'd say the best one is Jesse Michaels' Thomas Townsend Brown documentary on YouTube. Check it out if you're interested. And it goes to show that we've been looking into this stuff since the Philadelphia experiment. The Philadelphia experiment might have been the first time we figured out that we can actually bend space-time. We were trying to make a battle cruiser go cloak it, and instead we accidentally bent space-time around the object. This caused a time dilation effect to occur, which is why it appeared to be teleportation, but it's not teleportation. It's warp speed. Why is it called warp speed? Because we're warping space-time around the object. This is what's causing it to have this warp effect. So I'm not using the term teleportation. It's not Star Trek teleportation. It's Star Trek warp drive that we're seeing here. And I'll go into what these terms mean here in a second as well. I'll probably do that after I finish this last piece. But that's a good question. I want to make sure everybody understands what my position is so that it can be portrayed accurately. I'm saying a lot of crazy stuff, but I'm not saying that this is aliens, and I'm not saying that we can dematerialize something and rematerialize it somewhere else. What I'm saying is that we have the capability to bend space-time itself and control over gravity, and that we can manipulate this to manipulate space-time and create a warp effect. So hopefully that helps answer that question out there. But I totally understand why new viewers who are just looking at that video for the first time are going to go, that's aliens. Because to be honest with you, for the first week, that's what I thought too. And then I started digging into it more, and I'm like, whoa, wait. And then once I figured out that the science was out there, it's been out there, it's been suppressed, that's when I went, okay, yeah, this is us for sure. And we've been hiding this technology. Now, why is that important? And this will bleed into some of the other conversations that we're about to have. This tells us what the whole situation of disclosure is all about. This presents a very strong argument that disclosure is actually just a slow drip acclimation process where they're trying to get people comfortable with this level of technology. We're not hiding aliens. We're not hiding crash retrievals. Who gives a shit about that? That doesn't mean anything compared to what I just showed you on that video. What I just showed you on that video will change everything about our whole world. Everything. That's what they're hiding. That's what they're hiding. They want people talking about anything else except for the fact that Tesla was right. Once people figure out that Tesla was right, that we have an ether, science out there is going to change. The Pandora's box gets opened up. We're going to figure out how to unify quantum field theory and general relativity. And Einstein was mostly right, but not completely right. And you could argue that, yes, this might be making them push disclosure faster. Because this is what real disclosure is. Real disclosure is the technology that will change our world. Why does nobody talk about that in the UFO community? Nobody. Like, one of the only people who's even close is Jeremy Reese, the alien scientist, and he's trying to do it himself. Bravo to that guy. He does interviews with people who are like looking into this stuff, and nobody watches them because nobody cares about the actual science. Everybody just wants to know how many cheeks they get to clap and whether or not the aliens are blue or purple or white. Like, Jesus, guys, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about that? Who cares if the military shot down UFOs? What I want to know is, can we use that technology? How long have we had it? And how can it change our world? You know, so this explains it. So for Joe Rogan, anybody else who's watching it out there, why the secrecy? Why the disclosure? It's not because they're covering up aliens. People can handle aliens. It's not going to change anybody's daily life at all. Like, okay, there's aliens exist. Great. Okay, I'm going to work tomorrow still. You tell me that we live in a holographic principle universe, a simulation, and that there's an extra dimension, and that everybody can have free energy. I'm definitely going to be questioning whether or not I'm going to go to my slave job for 9 to 5 tomorrow. That's what they're hiding. That will change everything about our economy. It will change geopolitics. It will make us realize that nukes are also a distraction. Guys, anyone out there freaking out about nuclear weapons? Dude, you are living in a bygone civilization. Nuclear weapons are not a threat. In fact, they might be a liability. We can probably destroy a nuke within a second of it lifting off, and it's just going to blow up wherever it gets lifted off. And that's probably like the worst thing that we could do. We could literally just annihilate any nuke that comes at us. Annihilate it. Like, break it apart. Teleport it back onto somebody. Nukes are not a threat to this weapon. In fact, they're just obsolete. So when people talk about, oh, they're putting nukes into outer space, dude, what are you talking about? Nukes in outer space? Bro, we have directed energy weapons that can shoot beams down from outer space and in the interferometry zone, annihilate anything that hits it. That's what you should be worried about. That's what's really going on in outer space. They're not setting up nukes in outer space. God, man, it's ridiculous. Okay, so what's going on with MH370 then? So what was the point of it? And this is a very similar post to what I've made in the past. It's espionage, but it's not just espionage. It's counter-espionage. Guys, there was an article that came out 2 days ago in the Daily Mail. China is stealing $300 to $600 billion of intellectual property every single year. Hi, Amanda. $300 to $600 billion per year. That's how much China is stealing from United States companies. That's a huge amount. US-based Chinese nationals are the number one target. Well, Freescale Semiconductors is an American company, and you had 20 employees on this airplane. That's almost 10% of all the people on the airplane. It's like 9.5% of all the people on the airplane were from one company that's an American company, and 8 of them were Chinese nationals, and 12 of them were Malaysian nationals. Usually CCP, Chinese Communist Party, backed entities pay them, or what happens is they go back to China and they get large grants. They say, here you go. You were researching, let's say, plasma physics. We'll give you $10 million to research it in China now. And then they take the intellectual property of what they learned in the United States while working for those American companies, and now you're working in China. Now look at that technology again that we saw in that plane. What we saw happen to it. What would China do to get access to that technology? I would argue they would do pretty much anything to get access to that technology. So since the year 2000, 24 years ago, there have been more than 1,200 theft lawsuits against Chinese entities by American companies. And you may say, okay, 1,200 divided by 24, that's only still like what, 5 or 10 per, or however, what is that, 50? Boy, my math is not doing great right now. I don't know, 20 per year, something like that. Either way, that's only the ones they caught the people. That's the ones where they caught them. The rest of the ones, they didn't catch them. So that's the number that the people actually caught. The issue actually got so bad, and you guys may not know this. The United States government developed a disruptive technology strike force. So in February of 2024, apparently this strike force is only a year or two old, which is weird. Why you actually had to literally develop a strike force? So the DOJ this is 2 months ago, announced charges against 2 or 3 people. I want you guys to just listen to this. This guy, Gong, transferred more than 3,600 files from an R&D company, including blueprints for sophisticated infrared sensors designed for use in space-based systems to detect nuclear missile launches and track ballistic and hypersonic missiles. What? He stole Cyber's secrets? Guys, he's talking about the Cyber's program right there. They're just not saying it straight up, but they're talking about Cyber's. That's literally what space-based infrared system is. That's the point of the space-based infrared system. Guys, that's what we're looking at right here. I mean, this is from 10 years ago. So whatever this guy stole that he's being arrested for is probably even the next generation of this. People really still think we're looking through individual satellites down at the Earth. Guys, it's not 1990 anymore. It's 2024. They've got ground-based computers that grab the data from the satellites and produce a virtual playback. Nighttime is not a problem. It can be nighttime. They have perfect capability to make nighttime look like daytime. The angle is not a problem. In fact, the angle here indicates a low Earth orbit satellite. So the reason why this video is so sensitive is because this potentially gives away more about our spy satellite surveillance than any other video that's ever been leaked to the internet in the history of the United States government. More than anything, ever. So when you wonder what would people do to cover up these videos, realize that the intelligence community would do literally anything to get people to not believe these videos are real. Not just because of what they say about the airplane, but because of what they say about our surveillance capabilities to our foreign adversaries. And before you ask me, yes, I am conflicted by whether or not we should be revealing that information as a patriotic American. But fuck them. They should tell the truth about this shit. They should reach out to me months ago. I've been talking about this stuff for 8 months. Instead, they've been trying to attack me, discredit me, send every debunker piece of shit after me, trying to deny the videos, posting fake debunks, trying to get people not to talk about them, influencing podcasters to do attack videos about me, potentially using whatever YouTubers they have under their assets to make up fake defamatory content about me. Bro, you lost your chance, man. I was trying to be nice. So I guess people are just going to find out about our surveillance apparatus. And people can come to their own terms of whether or not they think it's real. So Gong allegedly transferred trade secret files relating to the development of next-generation sensors capable of detecting low observable targets while demonstrating increased survivability in space, as well as the blueprints for mechanical assemblies used to house cryogenically cool the victim's company's sensors. So notice here, they talk about low observable things. I mean, again, we're looking at this. This is what we're looking at. This is like he's leaking information about this system. People are wondering, like, and this is the thing too, is like these are hypersonic weapons, these orbs. By definition, I think these orbs are what we would call hypersonic weapons. They're enclosed in a plasma sheath. It's exactly what hypersonics require, and that's how they can bypass the requirements of friction as they're floating around. And this is how they can go underwater as well. So we find all these UFOs that are transmedium. Well, here is your answer. It's a plasma field around it. This is how they're able to float through the water, float through the sky, float through space. Doesn't make any difference. They've created a plasma field that's displacing them from space-time. Simple as that. And if I'm wrong about any of this, fine. You know what? I don't really care at this point. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I would love if some actual scientists would try to actually prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. But instead, what I see happening a lot, and I'm not going to call the specific person out, but you get condescending people who, that's basically the equivalent of a Redditor who says, you don't understand how this works, or blah, blah, blah. One guy replied and had post a link to his blog and 10 posts about the history of plasma physics. And I'm like, just answer the question. Explain how it's wrong. Well, no, you need to read a 2,000-word essay. I'm not doing that. If you want a point that is wrong, present your facts. If you can't present your facts in a tweet, in a bullet point format, then I'm not going to bother reading it. Okay? I'm not interested in condescending replies from academics who don't know shit about physics or electrical engineering. You know, I have talked to electrical engineers that work for the government, that work on these programs, and they not only tell me how it works, but they also reference the scientific minds that came before us that have the papers that are out there. I've looked at the papers as well. So if you want to argue about it not being real or whatever, then bring your facts. Don't tell me stories. Bring your facts. I'm not going to read your blog. If you can't figure it out and make it simpler for me to understand and the world to understand, then no one's really interested. Okay. Now, the second part of this is very important because the same announcement has charges for stealing semiconductor technology by, I'm going to butcher these guys' last name. Let's just call his last name Bazazi. Their father and son. Today's charges against 3 additional defendants for seeking to illegally transfer U.S. software and semiconductor technology with military applications to benefit Iran and China highlight the critical importance of our fight against this national security threat. So what's the motive for MH370? We got 20 free-scale semiconductor engineers on board this plane. We have a patent for a coherent matter wave beam, and this is how it all works. You create coherent matter, you cohere electrons, and that's when the magic begins to happen with regarding to anti-gravitational technology. That's how you produce an anti-gravitational wave, is you create coherent electrons. When you create coherent electrons, their spin changes from 1/2, which is a fermionic spin, to 1, and that's a bosonic spin, meaning now you create quantum macroscopic effects. That's the scientific terms for my smarts out there. So if high-temperature superconducting microchips can enable Star Trek level technology, then it seems plausible in the MH370 videos that the United States was running counter-espionage operation, preventing the free-scale engineers from reaching China. But it's not just that, because you could just kidnap them. You could do anything else. Now, maybe it's convenient you have them all together. Maybe you want to make sure you wrangle them all up at once. That's actually an interesting thought. But you can shoot a missile at them if you just want to destroy the plane. So this was something more than that. Potentially they were trying to bring the people back or maybe not kill them all. We don't know. But this was a message to our adversaries. And if you've read the letter to Ashton Forbes or listened to it, then you'll know this next part. Who's your daddy? And that's just a little throwback to that letter because I think about that letter a lot. Super creepy. Okay. What questions do you guys have on MH370 while I have another sip of my drink? Okay, so the next thing I want to show as well, I want to show you guys that we can actually see where the orbs come from. Now, not exactly, but I'm maybe being a little bit disingenuous with that. Let's watch this drone video combo here. So this is the video that I posted yesterday. It's got like, I don't know, 200,000 views or something like that. So I clipped this up for you guys, for my fans out there. I'm going to have to make this full screen. Now, I want to show you guys that in this video, you can actually see where the orbs come from. So we can see the first orb right there, right in the beginning. So in the satellite video, you can actually see the first orb doesn't catch on to the plane right away. So the first orb is like tracking the plane, and then unfortunately it goes off the side here, so we don't get to see it. But in the second video, we can tell that the orb spins around the side of the plane one time, and then it catches on and gets locked into rotation. And this happens right away. And it takes about 6 to 7 seconds for the second orb to show up. And you're going to see the second orb actually whip across the bottom right corner of the screen here. Again, if this video is fake, these are way too many details to be adding in. Like, we're literally watching the direction of travel from the orbs as they whip into the screen. Watch this. There it is. You saw that? See the orb right there? The orb right here in the bottom right. We actually see it, and then they move right back right away, and it's already in position. But not only is it in position, it's already locked in. It's already creating 2 points of a triangle right away, which actually gives us information about what's happening here. is that this first orb is somehow determining the center of gravity of the plane or center of mass of the plane, and it's already created the triangle formation, which to me indicates this is some type of advanced AI produced by a supercomputer or either by a quantum computer, and it is potentially figuring out the remote controlling in real time. And it may be the type of thing where it's like once you figure out the center of mass, it can calculate it instantly and figure out where the orbs need to go. But here's the other kicker. The third orb comes in within 3 seconds. So the first orb comes in, struggles to track the plane, figures out the exact center of mass, locks in. Second orb comes in, and third orb comes in right behind it. Look at that. Third orb's right there already as well. So once again, I want to show you guys that so you understand like the significance of this. Like this is, I mean, somebody faked all this? It's a lot. This is like a whole storyboard. It's not like there's some reference where you copied this. All these details would have been originally thought of and come up with. People go, well, they just made something up. Dude, what? They made up a lot of small details that fit scientific terms that we only know 10 years later. So again, there's the first orb. It's not locked in right away. It kind of shakes around the side of the plane here. And then the other video, we can see exactly what it does on the side of the plane. And then it gets locked in. The second orb takes a minute. Takes a few seconds. Then there's the second orb. Second orb instantly gets into rotation. Now they're already forming a triangle. And then the third orb comes in. The third orb immediately completes the triangle. Honestly, that would be enough alone for me to be convinced these videos are real, even without all the excess details. And I'll just let it play out because I want the people who are out there who haven't seen these videos to realize that we're looking at real videos of MH370. Now, look at this. Look at it spinning around this plane here. How realistic that is. And when it goes past the plane. And then when it zooms in. Now, this one is just so you can see the lines in front of it. This is one where we change the color channels. And look at the lines. Those orbs are being pulled forward. They're creating space in front of them like a gravity well that are pulling them forward. And then I think I flip it over here then to the close-up. And in the close-up, I slow it down because look at the heat signatures in the orbs. Look at how they pass in front, in the front of the plane and through the tail of the plane. They even get accurately warped when they're going through the tail of this smoke trail that's going on here as well. Which to me, you tell me how somebody fakes that. You tell me how somebody invents that out there. I have no idea how somebody would even come up with that. So somebody asked a good question, and I don't mean to say this to call them out or anything. This is a good question that should be asked. What if I said I made this video? At least 3 people have already claimed that they made the video, and they were all liars. And I've already said one way in which, and now that if somebody comes up and tries to do this after I've given away the game here, but one of the first things is that if you were the person that made these videos, the first thing you would do is you would point out some of these details that we had never seen before, like the orbs. You said, hey, I made the videos, and one of the ways I can prove it is that I had the orbs come in from the bottom right side of the screen and from this other side of the screen, and this is how I came up with that. You would have all that information because you're the one who made it up. You're the one who invented it. You would have inside information about how you created the videos that nobody in the investigation would not have uncovered. Yeah, no, I know you're not the guy. I know. These videos, nobody made these videos, is the truth. And one person convinced like all the idiots on Reddit that he was the person that made the videos, which just goes to show how stupid and gullible those people are. His name was Joe Lancaster. I'm only saying his name because he deserves it. He lied about the videos. You go look at his Twitter profile. You can tell the dude has a couple screws loose. But he wouldn't admit that he lied, even though it's clear that he did. He got caught in the lie. People looked up his Reddit account. They found out that he was making comments about how he knew the videos must be fake based on other stuff, which you would never say if you were the person who made them. You would just have claimed it right away. And then he made the fatal mistake was that he claimed he uploaded it to a location that didn't exist at the time. And this is the problem, is that if you're gonna lie about these videos, there's too much corroborating evidence. And there's too many small details. Another thing that was very obvious that showed that he was lying was that he was asked why he made the video blue, and he said, "Oh, I just decided to randomly do that." And this is the part where, too, a lot of people would argue that the videos don't come in, FLIR videos don't come in blue. They do. I've got a list of 7 different videos that are military videos that are in blue thermal, just like this. So they do. That's not even a debatable point. And so this is the thing, too, where like it's very easy to tell if somebody's lying. The only way anybody, I would even begin to take anybody seriously who claims they made these videos is if they have the source files from their work while they were building the videos. Because I've done some video editing now in the last few months, and I'm talking basic crap like put texts on boxes. Even that takes a long time. And I have like the source videos and files and the work that I put together. These videos, you would have a hard drive full of all the assets you use, all the stuff, the different stuff that you were like framing it all together, layering it all together. You wouldn't just have the final product. You would have a bunch of work. And somebody would have come forward for the $150,000 if that was the case. So that would be the bare minimum. The problem now is that the videos have gotten so much attention and it's obvious that the military is implicated in these, that the CIA or whatever 3-letter agencies, they have access to these videos. So they could literally just use AI to like remove the orbs and the zap from these videos and then come out and have some patsy claim they were the person who made them or whatever. So that's why even now I'm going to be skeptical. And I'm going to have like a list of questions for anyone who were to come out in that scenario. On first question is, why did you not accept a $150,000 bounty? Like, where have you been? And then they'll go, oh, I wasn't paying attention, which I'll say bullshit, because we've had hundreds of millions of views on this. If you're a guy who made these videos and you're going to pretend like you haven't been there, you haven't seen what's been going on. This has been all over social media. I've done 80 podcast appearances. There's no hoaxer is what it comes down to. So let's see. Yeah, and we found other stuff too, where the rainbow palette is like just literally a software setting. You just flip it. The most likely scenario, and this even gives us more information about military videos, is that the black and white ones that we saw, the FLIR videos, they probably intentionally turned them to black and white before they disseminated them to the public, because they're giving away the least amount of information about our intelligence apparatus as possible. If you know that we can do crazy thermal coloring in our super high quality infrared cameras, then it tells adversaries a lot about our surveillance capabilities. And that's really what the government's trying to avoid. Now, again, too bad they shouldn't have lied about the videos. Okay, so where's my list of notes? Okay, so we went over that. Okay. Another quick sip. And once again, I want to thank the people who joined in late, who I appreciate you guys on here. Yeah, and other people are pointing out the rainbow gradient's pretty standard. If you guys were to go to the debunker Reddit, which is finally dead, thank God, these people were coming at me, lying about me nonstop. There's a lot of mentally ill people on there, and I mean literally mentally ill people who have been going after me. And the thing about the debunkers is they make false claims from a positions of phony authority. And what do I mean by that? Is that you'll see debunkers go out there and say, these videos can't be real because the videos don't come in that color, which is not even something they could possibly know. So when somebody makes unknowable information and claims about unknowable information that they are not experts on, that should be 100% discounting of their credibility entirely. 100%. And if you guys have been following the saga as well, the number one worst person on the planet, Debunker Mick West, has also produced multiple false debunks about these videos. I have blocked him because I'm not dealing with these like mentally ill nut job debunkers anymore. But he 100% produced a fake debunk for jittery contrails, which was absolutely proven false. He was explained by people that use the software why it was false, and why the jittery contrail was because the contrail is blue in the thermal video, and so is the background. The stabilization software they used to produce the fake debunk was thinking that the trails in the background were part of the background. So what that did was it made the plane shift out of frame with the background. And they used that to claim that this proved the videos were fake. He was adamant. He's been adamant about that since November. Since November. The very first thing I told him was it was an artifact of the stabilization software. Didn't listen. Experts on the software cameras said that it is normal. Didn't listen to them either. I have all this recorded. And then somebody went ahead and just proved it without any doubt. They made the video black and white, and then they did use the stabilization software, and the jittery contrails went away. In fact, I will prove it to you right now. So you can't, unfortunately, listen to what debunkers say. They are 100% willing to fabricate fake debunks. And that's just a sad state of humanity and the human condition in general, is that people are so unwilling to be wrong that they are willing to fabricate fake evidence to support their phony beliefs. Even in a situation where if these videos were real, it would change all of humanity. That's why I consider people like this to be enemies of humanity by definition. Is that for you to be so adamant that you would fake evidence to get humanity to stay in the Stone Age and stay as cavemen because you just don't want it and can't believe it to be real, that is serious mental issues beyond anything I could ever comprehend in my life. So look at this. You can see right away when you stabilize it correctly in black and white, where now the background is not seen or the smoke is not seen part of the background, there is no more jittery trails in the with the plane. It's just normal contrails. It's really smoke, but whatever. If they want to call it contrails, that's fine. So that proves that debunk to be fake. And the reason why this is important, the reason why discrediting Mick West is so important is he's also the one who's responsible for the Pyromania VFX that also does not match. So I got him to finally admit it on the record that he admitted it doesn't match. I will, I guess, go ahead and show that. And unlike them, I'm going to be fair. And I'm going to show what they claim was they claim this was the nail in the coffin right here. Let's zoom this in. They claim this frame was a match. You can see that it's actually not a perfect match. You can see along the edges here that it's not a perfect match. You can see blackness showing up here. And when you watch people use this, you'll see what they do deceptively is they just like point arrows at spots that are similar and they say this must mean that it's the same, but they don't point out the parts that don't match, including a bunch of extra dots here that don't exist. A lot of this stuff doesn't match at all. And then they never point out that the middle is completely different. The middle is completely different. Completely different. And so the argument for them is that, and this is their true argument, I'm not, misrepresenting this. They argue that someone changed every aspect of this around. They moved all the pixels around to get it to look like this black thing in the background. But they moved all the pixels around. That's not how VFX works. Stock effects don't work that way. The point of a stock effect is you just lay it into your video. We have 4 examples in major media where this stock effect was used, and never once has it ever been changed pixel for pixel like the debunkers claim. That's a statement of fact. And so the thing that will eliminate this idea here, this misperception, is when you watch the whole effect, then the deception becomes extremely obvious. This is overlaid. This is the one pixel, the one frame that is similar. It is admittedly similar. All blast waves are similar. We actually found 3 different things that we can actually match up better along the edges than this one. The rest of them are not even close. You see the frames after this are not even close. In fact, the Pyromania VFX doesn't even have the same number of frames. It actually has many more frames than the frames of the video. So this is, and once you've seen more than one frame, you can tell right away this is not it. Imagine trying to move all these pixels around here. Look at this. Imagine trying to move all these pixels around. That would never happen. So this is why I always just tell debunkers how many pixels match. That ends the debate immediately. Because if they were correct that it matches, it would be a pixel for pixel match, and they know it's not. So there you go. I did that justice. Now, hopefully we won't have to talk more about debunks because I hate wasting my time on debunks. But this is why Mick West has no credibility. Anything else he comes up with should be seen as suspect, and people should not take him seriously. When it comes to these videos, at least these videos, the #1 expert in the world on these videos, you're looking at him. It's me. I'll be happy to tell you if and when these videos are debunked. And that's probably only going to happen at this point when the United States government makes a claim. Okay, that's enough of the annoying stuff. Let's focus now on some definitions I want to talk about. So a lot of people, we have been talking about, we've been talking about free energy. We've been talking about cold fusion. And I've been showing you guys anti-gravity as well. And also been talking about warping an object. So these are 4 different terms. And yes, I'm saying all 4 of these things are real. But they're different. And it's important to understand the difference. Cold fusion is like what I showed with Salvatore Pais' patent earlier today. Compressed plasma. A lot of people out there think that we need to build a large hadron collider that's 20 miles in diameter, or what is it, circumference, in order to produce like a cold fusion effect. We do not. We do not. The thunderstorm generator is most likely doing some form of cold fusion. Compressing plasma and confining plasma within strong magnetic fields is the secret. That's what Tomahawk, or what are they called? Tomamax are using, as well as the thing I posted earlier today. In fact, I'll go ahead and share that again, which is this other, uses normal magnets, hard magnets, not electromagnets, this device here. So, and this was from like weeks ago as well. So they're using not even electromagnets. And the benefit of not using electromagnets is that it takes a lot to cool the electromagnets. And as well as if you're trying to achieve the superconductive states, which is what's really required. Superconductors are like a big piece of achieving cold fusion. And if we can get room temperature superconductive magnets, which is why this post is so important. If we can get room temperature superconductive magnets that you can just stick, and now you can have plasma producing cold fusion within it, this is going to change everything about power that's out there. So that's what cold fusion is, the idea of compressing plasma within a very powerful, specific magnetic fields. Now, how is this different from free energy? Free energy, I'm talking about literally just a device that maybe uses magnetism, that does not produce cold fusion, that doesn't require plasma at all, that can just tap into the energy of the ether itself, the extra dimension that I've been talking about, the ether. And this is a situation where we are producing coefficient. Both of them, I believe, can produce coefficient of performance greater than 1, which is over unity. But from the other perspective, it's like, imagine a magnet system that can run a motor, and then that motor is producing enough energy to keep the motor going, but also power my lights, my computer, everything in my house and my apartment. That is free energy. Something where you just get it going. So you plug it in for a second so that it just starts up, and then you unplug it and it goes on forever. A perpetual motion machine. That's free energy. And yes, I'm saying both of these things are possible. Cold fusion, we don't even need an ether for the cold fusion. Now, I believe that some of the principles of cold fusion probably use the ether to be possible, but I don't think we necessarily need the ether to be real for cold fusion. For free energy, we do need the ether, because the ether is essentially an unlimited source of energy that we can tap into. And the idea there is it's like a well, an oil well that is never ending, that we can just dip into as many times as we want. So I am saying that both of those principles are possible. And I am opening myself up to scrutiny for anyone who wants to prove to me that it's not possible. Now, of course, I know that's not how claims work, is that technically I need to prove the claims. Well, I'm looking at it in 2 videos. I'm looking at a cold explosion happen to an airplane that's warping the airplane away. And the only way that that's possible is if there's an extra dimension of unlimited negative energy, neg entropy of the ether that we see. So I'm just reverse engineering it. What this means for me is that I'm looking at the teacher's test, the answer to the teacher's test. I'm looking at it. I've seen the answers. All I need to do now is figure out how to do the work and how to get there. And that's what we've been doing with this investigation. That's why I'm so confident. That's why I know that the science will check out. And this would only be possible if those videos are real. Here's another key aspect of those videos. If those videos are fake, why did somebody fake them with science that's considered fringe science, but actually checks out that there's actually a history for that science being real, the ether? Was it somebody who was like Thomas Bearden that was just like, who faked these videos and did Thomas Bearden fake the videos because he wanted to prove to people that scalar physics was real? You guys get what I'm getting at? Like, this was not a random person sitting around that thought about this. If it was some random person, they would have faked the videos with mainstream science. They wouldn't have faked it with this idea of portaling an object in an endothermic event. Now, the other thing that I want to explain is the difference between the EM drive and warping an object. The simplest explanation for the difference here is Star Trek impulse drive and Star Trek warp drive. Star Trek impulse drive is producing a beam of energy behind your craft that's essentially unlimited. And I do think that this also does require to have an ether, but it's like taking the concept of free energy and saying, okay, now that we've got free energy, I'm just going to produce like a stream of microwaves or really any type of propulsion that's necessary. I believe that the EM drive uses microwaves, evanescent microwaves or something like that. The idea of the EM drive is a cone, and the way that the cone bounces, it basically produces a thrust. Actually, I think it produces it opposite this way. And that's essentially the equivalent of Star Trek impulse drive. I am saying that that's possible as well. And I think that the way they describe it is like it's the waves are pushing off the virtual particles. Anytime anyone says the word virtual particles to you, they're talking about the ether. Virtual particles is just a made up word people are using because they don't want to explain that the ether is real. Now, so we have impulse drive. I am saying impulse drive is real, but it's not the same as warping your craft. If you are warping your craft, you are using gravity manipulation. And with gravity manipulation, you are actually able to bend space-time around the object. You are able to create a gravitational wave. It's the fundamentally equivalent to surfing on a wave, but on a gravity wave. And that gravity wave is going to propagate at or faster than the speed of light, presumably at the speed of light. But if you can separate yourself entirely from space-time and you can tap into the ether, the extra dimension that's out there, light actually travels faster than the speed of light, faster than the constant speed of light that we perceive it to travel at. But even at the speed of light, it would look like the object's just teleporting from one location to the other. So we don't necessarily need it to travel faster than that. If gravity does turn out to be limited to the speed of light as we perceive it through the vacuum of space-time, still works just fine. And with gravity manipulation, I'm talking about displacing your object from local gravity using some type of anti-gravitational effect like we see the orbs doing. But also when we see the orb trail in front of them, creating space. And creating that space creates a geodesic. Geodesic is just creating a gravity trail that you are following along. And that is essentially what they're also doing to the plane itself, is they're creating a gravity wave through interferometry, a 0-point system. So when you have your 0-point system, all the waves are going to cancel each other out perfectly. That's going to create your scalar potential. That's going to produce your gravity wave when the coherent electrons begin to flow around the plane. Once you get the coherent electrons flowing, then you're going to have your -1 spin, your counteracting force. And now you're going to have your potential for producing a gravity wave. Supposedly, people I've talked to, they can produce gravity waves and gravitons, if you want to call them that. That are very powerful. So that even though this seems like it would take a huge amount of energy, Jack Sarfati has argued that it doesn't take a huge amount of energy. Salvatore Pais argues that we can produce a huge amount of energy. So I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. Probably somewhere in the middle there. My guess is it doesn't take as much energy as we think when we have the system optimized, but that we can also produce basically unlimited energy and free energy based on what I've mentioned. If you have access to free energy, then it doesn't matter how much energy it takes to warp a craft, you can get that amount of energy. But I don't know all the details. To be perfectly honest with everybody, I am a noob when it comes to physics, advanced physics, let's say, and electrical engineering, but I am learning quickly. Okay. So those are the definitions that I wanted to explain here for everybody tonight. Hopefully that makes sense. No, I will not be talking to Patrick Jackson. That guy is a fraud. Sorry to break it to you guys. Guys, you shouldn't listen to people that claim unknowable information. So this Patrick Jackson guy is a fraud. He claims that the orbs are a defense mechanism, and he draws circles around orbs in the sky and claims to know what types of orbs they are and stuff like that. If somebody is telling you that, you're being scammed. That's not something he can know. He didn't ever work for the government or anything like that. He was literally a ghost hunter. That was his job. Okay. Patrick Jackson is a fraud. I don't know why I have to say that to people. He's not an expert on orbs or anything like that. He's just scamming people for money. So, don't get sucked into it. Again, and this is going to this is going to be the thing that we're going to dig into next, is that when people have fantastic claims, you need to scrutinize them. And I understand that this applies to me as well. And that's why I have 2 videos, 19 witnesses, whole story, real story, corroborating events, mountain of evidence. You actually don't have to believe anything I'm saying to verify everything that I've said to you is true, including the science. That's the difference between what I say and people that say, these are the orbs that are the planetary defense system. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is the same thing when people start telling you stories about aliens. They're telling you stories. Stories are not evidence. Stories are experiences. And people are free to have their own experiences. The problem that comes along in play is people take their experiences and they prey on people that also have experiences. And then they look for commonalities. And those people feel vindicated when somebody else tells them something that makes them feel good. And this is exactly what happened recently with this whistleblower that came out. So let's go back through the profile. Let's take a look at that. So, where is it? Was it yesterday? And I most likely will not be posting about this. I didn't even really enjoy posting about it yesterday because first thing I'm going to do actually is make my statement about aliens. So here's my statement about aliens. Aliens probably exist somewhere. I think that there is life out there in the universe. I personally don't care whether or not aliens exist or whether or not aliens are visiting us. It makes no difference for me in my life. Disclosure, I believe, is being distracted by the idea that everything's about aliens, and that takes away from the stuff that really matters. I think anybody that is out there that's trying to make disclosure all about aliens is somebody that you should be very suspect of. Of course, aliens being real would be a big revelation, but it's not going to change anything about our world. And that's why it's not as important as the technology that comes along with it. And if they're trying to make you talk and think about aliens, you're not sitting there talking about how a craft can float and how aliens can get here from Zeta Reticuli, which is, 40 light years away. It would take like 1,200 years, even at like a fraction of the speed of light. Because then you have to figure out, oh, we must be able to go faster than the speed of light, which means, oh, our physics must be wrong. That's the only thing that compels me about aliens. So I don't care what people want to believe with regarding to aliens. I personally am agnostic about it. I think they might be here, but if you made me say what my statement or what I think the nature of the aliens is, I'd probably say ultra terrestrials. They're probably in the water, like Tucker Carlson said. That, to me, that makes the most logical sense. Okay. So that's my statement about the aliens. And I think that a lot of people have had experiences with aliens and what have you. And those, I don't want to discount those experiences. I think people have real experiences that are out there. But that does not prove that aliens are out there that are visiting us. There's a lot of answers for a lot of stuff that happens out there. And we have to go with the evidence in general. So what happened, I guess this was the 21st. This was 2 days ago at this point, 2 nights ago. There was a whistleblower space. And I went, oh, new whistleblower. What's this going to all be about? And it's supposedly a whistleblower that was in the James Fox upcoming documentary, which is going to be called The Program. And I went, okay, if this guy's going to be in James Fox's documentary, I better go check out and listen to what he's saying. So I listened to some of this space. The only interest, and then actually this was the next morning. So I went ahead and I found a thread that talked about all the claims that were made during the space, because I only listened for like 20 minutes. When I was listening to the claims for 20 minutes, I immediately had red flags going off. Sirens were going off. He was pretty much just talking about aliens and what the aliens look like and how they communicate telepathically with people. I had the same vibes I get when I listen to Patrick Jackson talk about the defense mechanism of the orbs. It felt like somebody that researched a bunch of UFOlogy and that they were spreading what they had researched as factual information that they had seen firsthand when it wasn't firsthand information. They had one claim where they had supposedly been in contact with a blue alien face to face, and that they telepathically communicated with them, which is another huge red flag, because who the hell is this random guy that he's communicating with aliens face to face? And if he is, especially part of the military, then there's going to be dozens of corroborating witnesses. There's going to be a date, a time, a location, and he didn't say any of that stuff. And of course, everybody in this space, nobody is asking the guy about any verifiable information. Everybody's just asking him, what was it like when the alien telepathically communicated with you? And how many species of aliens do you think are out there? Shit that just doesn't matter at all. Like, if you're trying to vet the guy, we should be saying, okay, when did this happen? What was the date? I mean, if I see an alien, I'm going to remember the exact date, time, location, everything about it. I'm going to have a million verifiable facts where you can check into it. Instead, he had none. No verifiable evidence whatsoever. None. So to me, that's when I bounced out, when everybody was talking, asking silly questions. Also, for the record, somebody asked him about the MH370 videos, and he said he didn't think the videos were real. So there, right away, I'm not going to believe anything you have to say, because if you're making statements like that, then it makes no sense at all. It tells me you're not coming from a place of scientific background. You obviously haven't looked at any of the investigation, any of the research. And that's a big red flag, because what that tells me is that he's just telling stories, not giving firsthand accounts of information that he has. And his stuff started to fall apart pretty quickly today. The only claim that was interesting, and again, a lot of it's just, there was nothing unique that he was saying. It's like you could just pull all the stuff out of UFOlogy. And it felt like he was just a UFOologist that was telling his story about, his experiences or what have you. The only thing, though, is that I think he did claim that they have the way to travel long distances quickly, which is faster than light travel, warp travel that's out there. Which, again, that's really the only thing that's compelling, because that's what we need to have for any of that stuff to even be possible. So then my verdict was, if this was James Fox's star witness, then the debunkers are going to shred this guy. Like, they were going to shred him to pieces. And in fact, I'm going to shred him a little bit here today as well, because some stuff has come out. He was claiming that he was part of the UAP task force as well. And then he had to issue a correction and say, no, he wasn't part of the UAP task force. He was actually just on a UFO forum with people like David Grush or whatever. And that's pretty weird. If you are all of a sudden, you go from being on the task force, now you were just on a forum, kind of loses a lot of the weight behind it. And now I'm wondering, were you really face to face with a blue alien as part of your job? Seems kind of weird if you were just about part of a forum that's out there. And where's the verifiable evidence for all of that? Plus, when you start to hear these stories and it's not about, hey, man, free energy is possible and so is warp travel. If that's not the first thing somebody's saying, then I'm going to be skeptical, because that will change our entire world. Hey, man, free energy is possible. Hey, man, cold fusion is possible. That's how UFOs have enough energy to get here from Zeta Reticuli. Or, hey, we can warp an object from one location to another. We can literally teleport something. That should be the very first thing that anybody who is a true whistleblower that's seen advanced technology and seen aliens would want to tell the world. They shouldn't be sitting there talking about, the telepathic communication and the way the telepathy of the alien works. That's not really knowable information. Are you a biologist now? Like, what exactly is this? And again, people's experiences are their own. They can have their own experiences for sure. But when it comes to credibility, it's pretty bad. Yeah, so this is the reason why I don't give this any attention, and I'm not giving it any further attention after this. But I want to go through it with people, because I want people to be critical thinkers. And being critical thinkers doesn't mean believing everything that's out there. Doesn't mean believing everything that I'm saying as well. It means thinking for yourself. And thinking and critically means asking these types of tough questions, even in situations where you want to believe so badly. I want it to be real. I want the aliens to be real. But, is the information you're getting really valid? Is it vetted? So then the big thing that came out as well was that Vetted Podcast came out and said, this guy's been talking to people behind the scenes. He's been talking to people behind the scenes. So I do a follow-up post. I didn't even want to do the follow-up post, but guys, when Vetted says that this guy was apparently telling people that he was commanded to kill the blue alien that he was telepathically communicated with, guys, I'm going to report on that. If you are a military guy and you're claiming that you were commanded to kill the thing, and I trust Vetted, I trust that he heard this from someone, because I've talked to Vetted and he's just a normal dude. Now, did he get false information? I don't know, but that's quite the claim to make. And so, supposedly this guy did that. I think he's come back today and said he was going to clear that up. But now we've got a claim where you supposedly telepathically communicated with the blue alien. And now some people are saying that you said that you were forced to kill the blue alien by the other government. That's my thumbnail right now. And then you've got this other situation where you said you were part of the UFO task force and you're not, and you lied about that. These are pretty damning to one's credibility. Now, if people may say, well, Ashton, maybe he just misspoke. Well, I got bad news for you, chat. He got caught red-handed in 4K. So allow me to share my screen one more time. This right here in the bottom left is Jeffrey Sands. Oh, and also I missed. Whoa, Jake. Whoa. Wow. $100, man. Wow. Thank you very much. That is crazy. That's a lot. Thank you, Ashton and friends who have sacrificed your time to find the truth that had been covered up for a decade. The history will remember you. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it. I hope so as well. I hope that I live long enough to live up to those expectations and for that to happen. That's a huge donation, man. Guys, you don't need to donate your money to me, although I appreciate it. In fact, X is supposedly going to increase monetization and make it so that you can actually make money off of streams. Right now, I don't make anything off of streaming on X at all. But if that happens, then who knows what will happen with all this. But thank you very much, man. That is extremely generous and greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, Jake. Crazy. Wow. How did I not see that earlier? Whoa. Okay. So anyway, and if you're a supporter of this Sands guy, I apologize, Jake, but this is a video here from months ago. This was actually last year. This was during the UFO congressional hearing. So this was last June or July. There's our guy right down there. In this clip, he says, I know Grush. I've been with him the whole way through. I worked with him during the UAP task force. So he's misrepresenting his claims all the way back a year ago, caught in 4K. Now he's saying, no, he was never part of the UAP task force. He was just on some forum. So pretty damning. Now let me find, there's also one more. And this is going to lead us into our next thing. Here we go. Let me pull this back up. Okay, Tim McMillan. And for the record, guys, I don't know who all the UFO celebrities and stuff are. Most of the people in the UFO community hate me on both sides because I'm pushing the paradigm where nobody else is pushing it. And I'm actually talking about real science when, as far as I can tell, like less than like 5 people in the whole community talk about real science in the UFO community. But anyway, Tim McMillan is some kind of UFO person. I don't know, whatever. Some kind of UFO person. Cursory investigation later confirmed by congressional and DOD sources determined this individual was not credible well over a year ago. The fact that you have ever been included in any documentary in the first place is beyond laughable. So this guy claimed that he was vetted by AARO, but he didn't say what that meant. Just being vetted by them doesn't mean that what you're saying is true. It means they just looked at you and they didn't necessarily find you credible. So, so this is pretty much the death blow right here. If this statement is true by Tim McMillan, that's the death blow for the credibility of that person. Mike Colangelo, or whatever this guy's name is, he's like some kind of UFO news person. He's kind of an idiot as well, honestly, if I'm just going to be honest with people. But he is right on this one. James Fox is most likely deleting the interview of Jason Sands out of his documentary as we speak right now, which shouldn't be very surprising given the fact that this dude's credibility didn't even last one day. And then people were able to pick him apart. And this is the reason why, let me see here. Sorry, I'm looking at my list. And so then I found this post from Gary Nolan, who I'm probably going to get blocked by Gary Nolan after this. Apparently he's pretty touchy. I have nothing against Gary Nolan, but this statement here, I don't blame anyone, especially not James, for interviewing the guy. In science, you make decisions based on the information available at the time. That's not how science works at all. In fact, that's called just making shit up in the top of your head. You caveat any speculations and update with new information. That part's partially true. When you use a scientific method, you come up with a hypothesis, you find the evidence, and then you go back to the hypothesis if the evidence does not check out. That's what science actually means for people who are out there. Science stands for the scientific method. So this is what led me to make my post quoting Gary Nolan, where I say science stands for the scientific method. The lack of scientific research seems to be the major problem in the UFO community. When is someone prominent in this community going to look at the MH370 video seriously? James Fox wrote them off as fake as a $3 bill. That's a direct quote from James Fox back in September. Without doing any analysis. James Fox did no analysis whatsoever, chimed in saying that they were fake as a $3 bill. This actually polarized much of the UFO community against me when James Fox made this statement. Completely inappropriate statement for someone like James Fox to make, a guy that is interviewing a dude who claims he telepathically communicated with the blue alien. What kind of vetting is James Fox doing for his work and his documentary if the two most incredible videos in all of UFOlogy he thinks are fake, but he's willing to talk to a guy with the most bullshit story ever whose credibility doesn't even stack up to basic scrutiny? This, to me, is a huge strike against James Fox and his credibility. I know there's a lot of people out there that like James Fox, might be offended by this, but that's just the facts. Just because you like a guy does not make them correct. So now he's alleging that non-credible people with no verifiable information to claim to have seen aliens in his upcoming documentary. He's interviewing them. That's not science. It's the opposite of what the UFO community needs. The UFO community doesn't need more people telling their experiences of having their V cards stolen by aliens or people summoning shit. We need hard evidence. We need science. We need explanation for how an alien species could get from Zeta Reticuli to us. We need to understand how that changes our laws of physics. That's what we need. That's what true disclosure is. So I look at this video, and this is for you, Gary Nolan, and realize this video is scientifically accurate. The heat signatures are consistent with topological monopoles. The convergence is consistent with Coulomb's law. The negative energy that we see here, this cold event, this endothermic absorption of energy, is consistent with scalar physics and an ether. This is what people should be thinking about, is maybe our understanding of the world isn't totally complete. Maybe we still have some learning to do that's out there. And here's the next thing I want to say is that, and thank you, Ocean Eyes, I appreciate you. The reason why the people in the UFO community won't look at the videos, now that we've kind of gone through this context, is that they all want aliens. That's all anybody cares about is aliens, aliens, aliens. Jeremy Corbell doesn't give a shit about anything else except for aliens. Guy doesn't even know what a superconductor is and why that's relevant, even though it's like the most important thing when it comes to anti-gravitational technology. Superconductivity is. It's the most important thing when it comes to cold fusion, superconductivity. Instead, everybody is so adamant that they've got to be the one to disclose aliens to the world, and that'll somehow change our whole planet when it won't. This is also the reason for the cover-up again, the technology. Now, the other thing is the crash retrieval stuff. So I posted about this, but I don't really care. I think that people like Chris Mellon are gatekeepers. That's my opinion from this investigation. People like Chris Mellon aren't looking at this. People like Lou Elizondo aren't looking at this. I would say I'm 99% sure Lou Elizondo knows the science in these videos is real and that he's hiding it because and Chris Mellon probably too, because they know it's a national security issue. So Chris Mellon leaked private messages from a senior U.S. government official discussing crash retrieval program going back to the 50s. And then basically calls out the Air Force as being gatekeepers. He says, we're dealing with the recovered UAP that landed in Kingman, Arizona in the 50s. We're vacuuming up info as so-and-so gets read in. We now know the management structure and security control systems and ownership of the crash retrieval. We also know who recovers landed or crashed UAPs under what authorities. We also know that a still highly classified memo by a secretary of the U.S. Air Force in the 1950s is still in effect to maintain the cover on UAPs. So this is actually important because it does, I think, corroborate my opinion that the technology we see in the videos, while it's our technology, we did not naturally get there. It's a situation where we reverse engineered the technology. We saw floaty crafts, and then somebody smart like Thomas Townsend Brown was like, hey, how does that work? Maybe we can figure that out. Now, I'm not 100% convinced of that. That's just my prominent theory, my opinion. I think that it is possible we could have figured this out without aliens as well, because we may have figured it out when we figured out how to split the atom during the Manhattan Project. But if you watch Tucker Carlson on Joe Rogan, you will find that Tucker Carlson floats an idea that nobody has floated. The idea that what if we got help with the atomic bomb as well? What if we reverse engineered the technology around splitting the atom the same way we potentially reverse engineer about gravitational manipulation? That was a very interesting point that Tucker Carlson brought up, and it kind of resonates with me a little bit. So to me, I personally think that we might have reverse engineered that. If so, this Chris Mellon post seems very important. But again, this is just a distraction. This post from Chris Mellon, everybody's going to be talking about it for weeks, trying to dig into it. Every person in the UFO community talking about blah, blah. They said this. This shows that crash retrievals are real. That stuff doesn't matter. All that does is try to help us to figure out where the technology came from. The stuff that changes the world is not aliens. It's not crash retrievals. It's the technology. It's understanding how the technology works. That's why the MH370 videos are the most important videos in UFOlogy, maybe the most important leaked videos from the military ever, presuming that they're real, because they show us how the technology works in a way where we can reverse engineer it. Once again, this is why it's not aliens in the videos, because it's not unknowable. It's not that we look at that, we can't figure out what's going on. We looked at it, and it only took us less than 6 months to figure out exactly what's going on scientifically in those videos, corroborated by real science, real scientific papers, real patents, and science that goes back at least to the 1980s, probably to the 1940s. Now, that's what I want you guys to be thinking about here tonight. So let's do a couple questions. If anybody has any questions, I'll open it up for the next 5 minutes, and then I'm probably going to log off after that. It's been a great stream. I hope you guys have appreciated this. I am kind of mixing in my content here, a little bit of MH370 content, as well as a little bit of science content. So I consider myself a high science influencer, I guess you could say that. I want to get I want to get stuff out there that people think can't be real out into the public's mindset, into the zeitgeist. People ask, how do we reveal this information? How do we reveal this information to the world? Do we make it open source? No, the information is actually out there, and it's been out there the whole time. All the science has been out there this whole time. We just had to look at it. So what we need is we just need people to wake up. The way this information will get leaked to the public and it'll become mainstream is when enough people look at it and go, no, that's real. When enough people believe that the ether is real, that's when the world will know that it's real. That's when we'll get free energy. And that's a pretty tall task, but that's what it takes. Let's see what we got. Where are the passengers in the plane? We have a frequently asked question post that I post for that. It's the most common question. I think that probably most of the passengers died from the fire event. Asphyxiation, smoke inhalation, toxic fumes, not a good combination. But there is circumstantial evidence some people lived. I think the plane was zapped, warped somewhere near the Maldives, and then flew south to Diego Garcia. I think if anybody survived, they were in Diego Garcia, and they probably were given a new identity and probably put into something like witness protection where they can never speak again. And if somebody came out and was like, I was on the plane, they'll just kill you or make you go disappear. Oh, this is a good question for Nikki. And thank you for watching this whole time. I wish I could be high right now. How did this information make you more spiritual? Great question. The answer to that question is because when you understand that we live in a holographic principle, and I don't like calling it a simulation because our reality is still real. We're still living. We're still experiencing this world with one another. I don't want to end my life. In fact, this almost makes it more fun to live in this world because all I want to do now is make it a little bit better. Like if you're playing, let's say like Minecraft, and like when you're playing Minecraft, why do you bother to build a cool house when the game ends at any point and your house is gone? Well, it's not about the house being gone. It's about the building it part. Same thing as our reality. This makes me more spiritual because you realize that our universe is a construct. If our universe is a construct, then that means there must be a creator. Somebody had to have created it. Maybe there's an intergalactic jellyfish alien god out there that created our universe. Spaghetti monster. Maybe it's a mantid. Maybe it's a humanoid. Maybe it's just an ethereal being. Maybe it's like in the Bible, it's just some type of being that transcends what we think can be possible. Maybe it lives in the higher dimension. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that for a lot of this to be real, including the extra dimension, our reality must be a construct of some sort. And that's what makes me more spiritual when I think about it, because to me, what I believe, I would say I'm most closely aligned with Buddhism at this point. Now, I think I find comfort in a lot of religions. I was raised Roman Catholic, and that's why I know quite a bit about the Bible, and I believe in a lot of the teachings of the Bible. But I do think that reincarnation makes the most sense, that our bodies are a vessel, and that vessel, you could call it our soul, does live on, and that it can transfer from one body to the next. I think that our bodies are a receiver, and that our soul is being beamed to us, kind of like in the movie Avatar. To me, that's what makes the most sense. And I would almost argue that we are all one and the same person. All 4,000 people watching right now, we're all the same person. And you may say, well, how is that possible? We're all living in the same time. But time is an illusion. Time is a flat circle. Each of our frames of reference are different. And we're all living within our own frame of reference. And if you were to look down at all of time from the extra dimension, time's a flat circle. You can enter that time anytime you want. So I can die and I can come back and I can be Nikki. I am Nikki. I am John. I am every person in this chat. I am casual as well. And in each of those lives, we are learning and advancing our spirit and our soul, making ourselves more knowledgeable about our universe and our reality. And maybe it's true that we reach a level of enlightenment where that cycle becomes broken. I don't know. So hopefully that's some good questions. Let's see. Deep dive into Thomas Thompson Brown. Maybe. The documentary Jesse Michaels did was really good. Definitely recommend checking that out. Publish the findings. It's a matter of where. The way this is going to play out, my strategy, I deleted this post because it was a little too corny, but I still stand by it, which is that when you are playing against an enemy that knows, you're playing cards and they know what you have in your hand, then you just flip your hand over. Why do you flip your hand over? Because you're playing mind games with them. You want them to know that you know that they know. So if they can read every message in my phone, they can watch everything that I do, then I'm going to make my strategy completely transparent so that the whole world can see my strategy. My strategy is to make this information so mainstream that it becomes self-evident. That's because of the weight of the evidence. If I was just telling stories, that wouldn't be my strategy. The evidence is so strong, I just need more and more people looking at it. And that's my strategy. And the way that I do that is I show people that because the science is real in those videos, so is a lot of incredible other stuff like cold fusion, like free energy, like warping an object, like impulse drive, like faster than light communication. There's going to be medical healing aspects to this as well, which I've mostly avoided. But that's my strategy. And at some point, it's already happened. You guys can see I have over 16 million impressions this week alone. That's a lot. And the more people that look at it, the more people that will wake up. Yeah, I would say a great awakening is happening. I have not yet connected with Dr. Joseph P. Farrell. I would love to talk to him, especially considering he pretty much nailed exactly what happened to this plane, like 2 weeks after it disappeared. You watched the interview of March 20th, Joseph P. Farrell. Whoa. The dude was like calling it, like that it was a message from one government to another government. He just didn't have all the pieces. If he had seen these videos, I think he would have figured it out before me. But the difference is, to me, which makes it so compelling, is that like I just followed the evidence to lead to my conclusions. He was working from a position of just knowledge about how intelligence communities function and operate. So that's the part where when I come to a fact-based conclusion based on amount of evidence and I see somebody else that already comes to that exact conclusion, I'm like, wait, how did you know that? Kind of the same with talking to Tom Montauk. If you guys have not watched the interview with Tom Montauk, highly recommend doing so. Please watch it on my YouTube channel because I will get some minor amount of compensation, which I appreciate. Use that to upgrade my stream. But you can also watch it on X if you want. Somebody made the comment that every undergrad electrical engineer and physicist should be forced to watch my interview with Tom Montauk because it actually explains where we got the science wrong. Going back to Maxwell's equations. And I think that 99% of what Tom Montauk and I discussed was on the money until you get to the end where we start talking about the nature of reality and, you know, if aliens can exist and what have you. That stuff is obviously subjective and opinion. But the science part of it, the first hour and a half is like, if you're interested in science, it will blow your mind and it will get you up to speed in terms of what we've been talking about. What is the connection between the orbs and the TR3B, which is warp drive? I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know much about the TR3B stuff. And this is what I think makes my disclosing this stuff credible, is that I don't know much about UFOlogy. I don't even know who the major players are in the UFO community, except for certain people that are out there. And so I'm not sure if the TR3B thing is real, if it's disinformation, but if we've been reverse engineering this stuff since the 40s, then it would not surprise me if we have that. The TR3B, I think, is the triangle-shaped craft, but it's black. So it does make me wonder, when we see this triangle formation, you know, in the videos, this equilateral triangle, it does make me wonder whether or not, when we're seeing that out there, if we're really seeing a solid triangular craft, or if that people were just seeing 3 orbs in a triangle formation and assuming it was a craft. I don't know yet. I would say check out Salvatore Pius's patents, though. Good plug for him. Yeah, people that find out the science, they get off. That's another reason why I've been happy to become an influencer, because this protects me. If this stuff is real, then I am definitely a target, and I absolutely believe it's real. But I'm not going to let that change my life. I'm not going to live in fear. If I get offed, I get offed. But I don't think that's what they would do anyway, because it protects me. Because if any of that happens, there's going to be, not only does it not solve the problem, the moment somebody offs me, 5 more Ashtons appear out there. And I would, please, if you're watching this and something does happen to me, first of all, I'm not suicidal in any way, nor will I ever be in this life. No matter what happens, I would never be suicidal. But if anything happens to me, I want everybody out there to take my evidence. I've made it all publicly available. Take the reins, push the investigation forward. That's what I want. That's how I'm protected as well. When it's just me, it's easier for them, because then all they have to do is discredit me. If 5 more people rise up and start talking about it, then it becomes a big problem. Gary Nolan, I'm not interested in talking to Gary Nolan, honestly. I think he's a smart guy, don't get me wrong, but he's not really talking about the concepts that I'm interested in. He talks about the consciousness thing. He was referenced on the Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan thing, and when I was listening to it, I was just like, I do think there's probably a connection with consciousness and the phenomenon, and that may be the missing link between everybody that's out there and the aliens, if they're real, but that's not really my priorities at all. So as much as I think Gary Nolan's a very smart guy, I didn't mean to rap on him or dig on him in this. I don't think he's in the right field for the type of technology that I'm interested in. I'm really interested in talking to physicists and the electrical engineers and people that are directly government contractors that have inside information. Evidence for Diego Garcia is the B777 fire suppression device that washes up in the Maldives that must have been empty. The 20 islanders that saw it from a small island nation of 3,000 people in the early morning saw it flying south towards Diego Garcia. And then the last piece of evidence is the Philip Wood, the only American adult passenger, posting on 4chan saying that he was being held prisoner, that he was drugged, and that he had been separated from the other passengers. And the EXIF data on the picture, it's just an all-black picture, pointed to Diego Garcia. So that's the evidence. It's not obviously proof that the plane ended up in Diego Garcia, but it makes sense. That's the middle of the ocean. Super advanced military base, has a CIA black site for holding prisoners there. That's the place where you go hide the plane. You don't fly the plane to Russia like Jeff Wise thinks. It's stupid. There's no way you could hide that. But hiding the plane in the middle of the ocean where commercial jets can't land is pretty good. There might be a time dilation effect, but we're not talking about manifest. This plane's not showing up in 10 years or something like that. Time dilation is proportionate to the distance traveled at the speed of light. So unless this plane flew around the Earth like infinity times, the time dilation effect wouldn't be powerful enough. I do think there's a chance that the plane could have been time dilated by minutes or hours, but not by years. So it could have shown up like an hour later or a few minutes later, but most likely it was almost instantaneous when it showed up on the other side. The physics gets really weird, though. The physics actually would argue that you can even hold the plane in suspended animation and then release it at a later time. So that's where you have to start realizing like time dilation is real and that space and time are interconnected. And then that's where really weird stuff. And this is probably another reason why they hold back gravitational manipulation, because manipulating gravity means manipulating space and time itself. And this is now where weird stuff happens. One of the concepts I do want to dig more into is the idea of retrocausality and whether or not we can actually go back in time. I know we can go forward in time. That's not debatable. That's just time dilation says we can go forward in time. So you could, if you go at the speed of light and you go to Alpha Centauri and come back, for you, it's going to be well, let's say you go faster than the speed of light. Let's say you have instantaneous transmission. For you, it's going to seem instantaneous, but by the time you come back here, it's going to be like 6 years in the future, 7, 8 years in the future. That's traveling to the future. You haven't got any older, but you've shown up, and now it's the future. So you can travel to the future. That's not debatable. The question is, can you travel to the past? And that, I think the answer is no, but we're going to learn more about that. I don't know, is Roger Stone an extraterrestrial? Great question. Good questions. Also, I'm going to take this moment here while we're winding down to give you guys a Discord invite. I know a lot of people wanted Discord invites. Just please keep in mind, we run a pretty tight ship in the Discord. I mean, I've only had to boot a few people ever. But just don't be dickheads in the Discord. And you can enjoy talking about some fun stuff. So I posted a link to the Discord. Make sure also people get confused. When you join the Discord, you have to verify in the verification channel. If you mess up, then you have to come back a few minutes later and try again. And then you have to wait like 10 minutes and then you can post. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let me see what other questions we got here. Oh, yeah, there was also the photos of the people that looked similar. I haven't really talked about that very much because it's kind of, I know people call you racist if you say people look the same. They did. Some of the people actually did look really the same. It was posted on Facebook in like 2020. So there is some chance those people would have been forced to live out their days on Diego Garcia. That would be pretty dark. Imagine the passengers that have to live on Diego Garcia for the rest of their life and never talk about it. That'd be pretty weird. We need to be kinder to each other. So Amanda is my favorite follower. She's been around since the very beginning, pretty much, when I had very few followers. And she always has the nicest comments. We need to be kinder to each other online and in public, uphold our family values, and remember how important it is to become peaceful terms despite conflict. Totally agree. Yeah, MH370 woke up a lot of people, according to Skinny Bob. Absolutely. Oops. What are the government? Which governments paid off the families? Could be China, could be Malaysia, could be United States. Most likely, the United States would have paid them off. And yeah, so people do find a lot of wacky videos, and they want me to look at, not wacky, but videos of showing anomalous events. But for me, once you've seen these videos, like, nothing comes close. Like, we're never gonna probably get videos like this that have this much evidence to go along with them ever again. And these videos are enough. This is all we need to prove the science real, the technology real. And then after that, maybe we can help explain why people are seeing, floaty lights that are changing directions instantaneously in the sky. Yeah, I probably want to talk to more people about the Bearden stuff. I asked some of my back channel people about Bearden. Apparently, there's nobody else like Bearden. Thomas Bearden was one of a kind, apparently. I wanted to find out if there's anybody else that knew about scalar physics and stuff like that. Okay, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to skip ahead some of the comments. Publish a book. If I lose my job, I will write a book. And I'll probably just take all the work that I've done and edit it a little bit and turn it into a book, just for the point of getting out there. But it wouldn't surprise me if people refuse to publish it just because of the sensitive nature of it in general and the suppression. The United States government doesn't want a book like this going mainstream. You have to realize the United States government is much more powerful than what people even imagine them to be. Yeah, what a time to be alive. I think about that a lot. The thing about it being a time to be alive is, like, if I were to have chosen a time, if you were to say, if I'm a soul and you're saying, give me any time you want to be alive, this would probably be the time I would pick. The time in which we are a civilized society that is on the echelons of Star Trek level technology. It's incredible. I think it will come out in my lifetime. I hope so. Who's Chef Reactions? I'm gonna have to probably look that person up. Oh, I've already checked out Amy Eskridge. I was like one of the people pushing Amy Eskridge's most recent interview. When you see Illuminati bot posting the Amy Eskridge video, he's actually posting my video. And I know because I'm the one who did the edits with the captions. I probably should have put a little water tag in there. Yeah, the Greer stuff, I mean, over Unity is real, so Doesn't mean that all these people that have are showing free energy devices are real, but some of them probably are. Almost certainly. Okay, just for you, Sandy. Lou Reviews called Jason Sands Ashton Forbes 2.0. Can we give him hell? Lou Angeles or whatever. Here's your shout out. Complete moron. Dude probably got too many boosters. He drives a scooter and wears a helmet that's like 3 times too small. He got apparently like he was in with Lou Elizondo and then he had some falling out and now he's like a slighted person. You find a lot of these people in the UFO community are just losers that like they were on the inside and then they got grifted and then they become spiteful, hateful people. And now they're just like permanent debunker people. It's just both sides of the UFO community are just horrible, man. Horrible people. Let's see what else we got. Oh God, I'm probably way far behind. Okay, I think I explained all the Diego Garcia stuff. Anything else? Yeah, I've already posted the VFX. I talked about the VFX thing. Go back earlier in the stream. You'll find me talk about that. I talked about that quite a lot during this stream. There's one called Taken, and there's Manifest, and then there's also Lost, are all very similar to this. I think there are strong arguments to be made that predictive programming is real, especially Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek alone, people argue that Gene Roddenberry had gotten inside information. The bombs that already gone off and we are the mutants. I think you could argue that we are the aliens as well. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't know exactly what the nature of our reality is, why we're here. Wouldn't surprise me if we're on some kind of prison planet and we're being kept prisoners. The retrocausality tests were not flawed. It's funny because this kind of goes to show how YouTuber wannabe physicists out there aren't really the experts they claim to be. I don't trust anybody that has debunk in the name of their video. I looked at the retrocausality experiment, and logically speaking, I can't figure out how it doesn't prove retrocausality. And I've heard people's arguments for how they've claimed it, including Sabrine, whatever her name is, the physicist, and it seemed like she misunderstood the situation. Yeah, I do think that retrocausality is probably proven to be true, but I just haven't wrapped my brain around it. That's just my opinion, though. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna probably drop off here in a minute. Oh yeah, I'm super far behind. I'm gonna skip ahead here, guys. What is your view on Corbell and Knapp? I think that they have good intentions. I think that if they didn't catch on to the MH370 videos, then I highly question their intuition and their investigative research, because all you have to do is look at the evidence and realize how overwhelming it is that's out there. I also think that Corbell is too married to the idea of aliens being the key theme of disclosure. So to me, I think they're pretty suspect. The fact that Corbell told Joe Rogan that he thought the videos were fake pretty much shatters his credibility in my mind. This is a guy that claims to be on Cosmic Time, that finds non-anomalous videos of floaty jellyfish things that aren't doing anything magical, and then tells people, oh, there's another video, but no, you can't see it. That's the one where you see the thing going in the water and going up in outer space. Okay, well, show us that video. Jeremy Corbell has never leaked anything even remotely, even a fraction as compelling as the MH370 videos. That's just the truth about Jeremy Corbell. So if Joe Rogan listened to more people like me and less people like Jeremy Corbell, we might get disclosure going a little bit quicker, because we need people that actually know how science works, not people that get supercapacitors confused with superconductors. And I think Jeremy Corbell's been on like Joe Rogan like 6 times, which is honestly just an embarrassment for Joe Rogan. He needs to find people that like know what they're actually talking about when it comes to the science of how a UFO could float. Because the reality is, I think that what Jeremy Corbell is doing there is not getting us closer to disclosure. Okay, so that's it. So the last thing, guys, I want to show here is I'm going to take one more shot at James Fox. So if James Fox had any credibility before he was interviewing dudes that were discredited, talking about their aliens or what have you, this is going to be a nail in the coffin for him. That is James Fox. This show's called Chasing UFOs.
Oh, get the out of here. That didn't just happen.
James, come in. James, do you copy? What's going on, James?
There's an alien looking through the goddamn window of the office. Right now. There just was.
It's outside right now. Unlike many people, don't think this video is a mask. A mask can't have blinking eyes and reflection in them. It just can't. So I'm leaving Colorado with a lot of unanswered questions.
Really? Really, James? The MH370 videos are faker than a $3 bill, but that's you. I'll leave you guys on that one, chat. You decide who has credibility and who doesn't have credibility. Thank you guys very much for following tonight. I appreciate you. I'll play you out with that video one more time.
Oh, get the out of here. That didn't just happen.
James, come in. James, do you copy? What's going on, James?
There's an alien looking through the goddamn window of the office. Right now. There just was.
It's outside right now. Unlike many people, don't think this video is a mask. A mask can't have blinking eyes and reflection in them. It just can't. So I'm leaving Colorado with a lot of unanswered questions.